Greetings energy drink enthusiasts. On today's content I'm gonna show you a little build guide for the Voidforge Pathfinder Consecrated path. So the general concept of the build is, since we're gonna be using the Voidforge, we get no benefits from dealing anything that is not elemental damage. Due to this, we're better off converting physical damage to elemental damage while also making sure that we're stacking as many fist damage modifiers as possible. At the same time, we're gonna be playing as a Pathfinder, so we get a lot of bang for our buck the more Gatorade flavors that we pack with us. And because of that, I chose to bring 4 offensive flasks to all encounters. So let's talk about leveling. It's pretty self-explanatory and it's also quite fast. When you first start, your priority is pushing towards the Templar start, aiming towards Amplify. You should be hitting the sun at around level 45-ish. At the same time, this is where you do your first Labyrinth and take Veteran Bowyer. From there, move around the Templar's starting area, taking elemental damage, life and penetration like I do in the video. Then we go back to the Ranger start and push towards the Sword Wheel. We take everything in there. We also take the Crit Cluster right above that wheel, and we also go down towards Primeval Force. From there, we go towards the Martial Experience wheel and take the 4-point side. And from there on out, we take any life nodes that we missed and jewel slots. Also do not forget about Life Leech under the Duelist start and take all of it. The last remaining points in your ascendancy follow this order: Nature's Boon in Cruel, Master Alchemist in Merciless, and finally Nature's Adrenaline for the Uberlab. Now let's talk about the gear. First things first is the weapon. Voidforge is not that expensive, but a good rolled one may set you back a few dozen counts. Try to get one with good physical DPS so that the random elemental damage gains are even stronger. For the chest, we need a 6-link chest with MAME support intrinsically. Serrated fossil prices are weird at the moment, but for every time you use one and do not get MAME, that's around 20 cows per attempt. Keep that in mind. We also want MAME because that gives us more physical damage that the Voidforge can play with. You can also use a 6-link Voidforge if you feel like it, but I prefer having the links on the chest. You also want life and resists on this slot. For the gloves, we're gonna be using Grim Sorrow, and I have a corrupted pair with elemental weakness on hit. If you cannot get this modifier, you can sacrifice a ring for Mark of Submission with elemental weakness. Other corruptions on the Grim Sorrow I recommend are attack speed and attacks have increased critical strike chance. The helmet we're using is Devotus Devotion, and I 100% recommend using this one for the increased movement speed and attack speed. I recommend getting attack speed increases from Blood Rage or Ancestral Protector as the enchantment. The boots I recommend that you use are 2-toned armor evasion boots, and try to get as much resistance as you can on this. If you can, get elemental damage penetration as an enchantment on these guys. For the rings, we want resistances, life, accuracy, physical damage to attacks or elemental damage with attack skills, and an open suffix to craft minimum power charges. Again, if your Grim Sorrow do not have elemental weakness, you can sacrifice one of these for a Mark of Submission. For the amulet, we want plenty of intelligence cause we're kinda dumb in this build. Life resists, accuracy, global crit, multi, elemental damage with attacks or physical damage to attacks, and an open prefix to craft increased area and area damage. We're also gonna be anointing this with blast radius for even more area of effect. On your belt, I recommend that you use Stygian Vice. You can either use jagged fossils for increased global physical damage or prismatic fossils for increased elemental damage. You want resists and life on this slot as well. There's plenty of modifiers you can toy around with if you fossil craft the belt, so experiment accordingly. Almost done. Now time for the flasks. A life flask, a diamond flask, a silver flask, a lion's roar, and either a taste of hate or a sulfur flask. I prefer the taste of hate for the damage taken as cold during the flask effect, but it's up to you. Lastly, on the jewels, you want life, attack speed, crit, multi, and if you need them, resists or accuracy are also very nice modifiers to have. Okay, now we talk about gem links. On the chest, Consecrated Path link to melee fizz, fortify, elemental damage with attacks, inspiration support, and faster attacks. Remember that MAME is here intrinsically. We want inspiration because not only does it reduce the mana cost, but inspiration charges give us crit chance and elemental damage increases for every charge up to 5 for linked skills. If you don't like this gem, you can either use Conk Effect or Pulverize, up to you. For auras, we want Hatred, Herald of Purity, and Precision. You can leave Precision unleveled or avoid it completely if you don't need accuracy. But if you take these auras, you may wanna consider an Enlightened support. We're also gonna be using Ancestral Protector and Ancestral Warchief linked to Blind and Stun. More attack speed, attack damage, and a Raging Pogo Stick are always nice to have. Other gems to use include Blood Rage and Frost Bomb, while at the same time any golden flavor is okay. Finally, we also want Lip Slam linked to faster attacks for moving around. Okay, so now this is a point in the video in which I tell you about the tips and tricks. Nah, I'm kidding, but the playstyle is pretty similar to Flicker Strike, only with built-in area of effect and semi-controllable. It hits hard enough to get you from tier 1 to tier 15 smoothly. Tier 16 and endgame bosses may require extra min-maxing and smart plays, but you should be okay. Also, I don't need to remind you that we are not elemental reflect immune, so avoid that modifier like the plague. Now, personally, my issue is that I struggle with some of the late game bosses such as Minotaur and the Phoenix, regardless of the build. Shaper isn't that difficult for me, but I loathe getting the fragments because those two ruin my day pretty often. That may be the case for you, or maybe not, maybe you're a smarter player than I am and that's perfectly fine. As for blighted maps, nah, I do not recommend this character at all for these encounters, not even after the patch. I didn't like the way the character behaves in them and I don't really enjoy doing those maps. It's up to you though, as this is my opinion and take on the League's endgame. Now this is gonna be pretty coincidental, but as I'm recording this I have Matthew's stream in the background and I realize that he's using Voidforge. That's probably gonna spike the price of the weapon. Another option, in case the Voidforge is not cheap, is the good old Terminus Whist. Personally, I think you'll have more fun with the Terminus as that has attack speed, crit, frenzies on crit, more base physical damage, and it's gonna be way cheaper. But ultimately the Voidforge is the way to go. So yeah, that's it for the character. My next one is gonna be a cast on crit character and it's the last melee based character I'm gonna be doing this league. Melee is relatively cheap this time around, but that doesn't mean melee is competent enough for blight stuff, at least in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed the time with the character, as leveling her and clearing Atlas content was lots of fun, and if you have the time, currency or need a character like this, try it out. Anyways, that's it for today. I say this all on my videos, but do not forget to subscribe, to rate and comment, and be sure to tune in next time when we're gonna be swinging an old geezer's cock around for fun. Bye!